you mentioned something in there that you're still hands-on with tools
Yeah.
and with writing code. What kinds of hands-on tools and code do you write?
Yeah. So for me, it has been as I have matured in my career, I get to do less and less hardcore hacking that I did early in my career.
Yeah.
But right now, primarily for me, like a big thing about me is that big passion of mine is that there's always a lot of data, but how do you make people understand it as simply as possible? So one of my favorite hobbies is to go to d3.js, get all these amazing ideas for visualization, and build complex chords and sunbursts and stream graphs to take some really interesting patterns in the data that are not visible in a table or a pie chart, or I hate pie charts, sorry, stack bar charts, but actually create something really sophisticated that shows something complex inside the data in a very simple way. So I do a lot of JavaScript stuff. Then the other thing is, over the last 4 years or so, I've done lots of things to figure out how to use machine learning algorithms in a more smarter way, especially to answer the unknown unknowns. And so, classification descent trees or random forest algorithms.
For the known unknowns.
Unknown unknowns.
For the unknown unknowns.
Yes.
For like exploring and discovering new things in the data.
Yes. So I always classify all data problems into these 3 categories that the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. And I think I started exploring machine learning as a way to get better at the known unknowns, things I knew, but I didn't know how to get the answer to. And so they'll go with. But over the last 3 years, my obsession has been the unknown unknowns, because that is where machine learning shines. Like, I don't have the brain to compute that many variables and coefficients and the hidden patterns inside the data. And so I have so many more examples of those. So for me, coding a lot now is just figuring out, all these things exist. Somebody's already worked on it. Let me go grab them. Let me figure out how to use it for my things and edit these things and comment those other things out. So a lot of it, and of course using R and Tableau and all these other tools that we have in our field
that
I've used for a very long time. So using those. But I tend to obsess a lot more about strategic analytics. And then I have my colleagues like Conrad, who leads our analytics practice.
Conrad Kopczynski, he's been on the show as well.
Oh, yes.
From before he was at Croud, actually.
That's right, yeah. He was one of the companies that we acquired, Impact Advisors.
Impact Advisors, yeah.
Yes.
He was on an episode number 465. And I was also going to say quickly, while I'm interrupting you with episode numbers, that you're in very good company here with your dislike for pie charts, which is something that I evangelize against constantly. And so we have an episode 490. It's called "Say No to Pie Charts," dedicated exclusively to this topic.
Yes. I am so glad, and I highly recommend everybody go check that, because I have one of my most popular posts on LinkedIn is "Eat pies, don't chart them." There you go. So like my colleagues like Conrad or my colleagues in the UK, they tend to do more hardcore data science and coding and things. But for me, it's a lot about, I tend to work a lot with VPs and CEOs and CMOs. And so for me, it's like taking an extraordinary amount of complexity from $400-500 million of media spend across all kinds of marketing initiatives and figuring out how can I help make this really super simple for this very senior person to make very expensive decisions. And so my focus tends to be more in those kinds of things.
Yeah, and I think this gives you a superpower. As an executive with so much experience already in the field, there are few that maintain using tools hands-on like this. I candidly had not prepared questions for you on that kind of technical detail because I didn't expect that you would still be doing that. But it arms you with a superpower that you just gave us a window into how useful that can be. Because when there's something, when you have hundreds of millions of dollars of spend to be looking over and to be digging into, if you're bounded by the limits of relying on a data engineer or a data scientist or machine learning engineer to be pulling those insights for you, you can't be digging into it and getting the same kinds of insights as if you can say, that's interesting, or I wonder if there's an unknown here, and you just explore it yourself, and then you visualize it beautifully in D3, and you can sell it.
That's right. That's exactly right. And this actually, your point is very good. I mean, if our listeners they are thinking about like, I want to grow up in my career and be a leader, so on and so forth. One of the things that I've learned through my career is I appreciate subject matter expert leaders, and I try to be one as well, because for one simple reason, if I'm a leader who does at least some amounts of real actual coding and work, it means I can imagine possibilities for my large team to execute. If you don't do that, it limits the imagination you can. So let's say Conrad and I are sitting and discussing like we did yesterday, and I'm like, this doesn't look good, we should do that. And Conrad's like, oh, this is another great idea. If I've done the real work, I can continue that discussion and imagine new possibilities. But if you're a leader who over time just becomes a leader, like a manager, there's nothing wrong with it. Please, we need more managers in the world.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah. You lack imagination, which means you can lead your data science team, your analytics team, your marketing team in a less effective way. But if you can do real work, you can imagine new possibilities, you can chart an innovative future.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You're preaching to the choir, Avinash. And yeah, so for our junior listeners, keep it up as you grow in your careers.
That's right.
And yeah, it can be worth it. I won't embarrass this particular guest because I think this might have been something that he said in confidence. But we'll see. I have an episode coming up with a guest. I'll try to remember to bring this up with him. But I recently, in a private conversation, he relayed that after many years, like we're talking decades, with all of the incredible things that were happening with ChatGPT in late 2022, as that was exploding out, he said, I started learning modern programming languages. I started learning Python because it had been 20 years or whatever since he'd sat there with the terminal, but he spent his Christmas holidays digging back into this and doing tutorials and becoming competent in modern machine learning because the NLP things that he was seeing were so mind-blowing. And for this person's role, understanding the implications of that is critical.
Yes.
And so I think whether you're junior now and thinking about growing into that executive role, we have the advice for you today to maintain that hands-on technical capabilities. But even if you're not, even if you're a senior, every little bit that you can learn about how this stuff really works to remove the magic from the experience of using GPT-4, to help you realize that this is something that you could be developing too. You could be training models that are involving proprietary data that have similar kinds of conversational capabilities as these models. But if you don't dabble at least a little bit in the technical details, it's all just it's a black box.
Or you can't imagine new possibilities for your business.
Exactly.
Because I find that I'm sitting in meetings and we're discussing the problem about effectiveness, efficiency, and I'm like, oh no, I set up a Discord server, I'm running my journey, and I'm doing this thing. And by the way, this toy thing I'm playing with, here's how it can completely transform this part of our practice. It's that imagination.
Yeah.
But in that meeting, somebody actually spoke up and said, "What's Discord?" Okay. Right? That's all I mean. I don't look down on that person in any way, but it's just that if you don't know Discord, there are some possibilities you can't imagine. That's it.
Yeah.